Hello! Today's discussion involves Hispanic employment within the United States and specifically Alabama. We're going to look at some statistics, point out challenges members of the community face, and propose a solution, and we will begin with statistics. In 2014, Hispanics and Latinos composed 16.1% of the United States workforce. They worked in many industries. A key industry was restaurants. In 2016, 25% of the restaurant industry was composed of Hispanic workers, with 1 out of every 4 chefs being a Hispanic. There were also more Hispanic managers in the restaurant industry than there were Hispanic managers in any other industry. In a particularly troubling study of one particular company, U.S. Bank, it was reported that more than 91% of their senior management team was white, and that only 2% of their senior management team were Hispanic or Latino. Hispanic unemployment rates are superseded only by Black unemployment rates. And what makes things worse is the fact that, participation-wise, Hispanic men who do work more than white men. One could infer from this that a Hispanic man has a greater chance of being unemployed, but that if he does find work, he's going to work more, and some might say harder, than a similar white man would. A third fact, white men on average make more than white women. White men and women make more money on average than Black men and Black women. And both Black and white men and white women make more money than Hispanics. To put it simply and factually, on average, Hispanics earn less per hour than whites, Blacks, or Asians. But what about in Alabama? Are things just as dreary here? The good news is that in 2010, an article reported that our Hispanic population boomed, growing by 161%, and that is something to be proud of. But is that same population struggling to find employment? Well, in Alabama in 2015, the unemployment rate for Hispanics was 6.5%, where whites was 4.3%. And nationally, in the third quarter of 2017, 5.1% of Hispanics are still facing unemployment, while only 3.8% of whites are. Also, in Alabama in 2014, the median income for Hispanics was $20,000, with whites coming in first place at $30,000. Translated into percentages, this means that whites are making 150% as much as Hispanics. So what gives? What's causing the gap? A few things, mostly education. Those who possess a 4-year college degree earn significantly more than those who do not, and currently Hispanics account for 36% of high school dropouts. So that is one concern. Another is attitudes and prejudice. And prejudice is a terrible thing, but the good news is that change is on the horizon. CNN interviewed our working white class as well as emerging white college graduates. And as they polled these two groups, they discovered that on a consistent basis, these college graduates were more welcoming in their view of immigrants, including Hispanics. One of the questions posed to both groups was whether or not they believed Latin American immigrants were taking jobs away from Americans. 51% of the working white class answered yes, they thought they were, while only 27% of college graduates thought so, meaning that 67% did not think so. A second question posed to these groups was, what is the impact of increasing diversity in the U.S.? 38% of the working white class answered that it was harmful, while 72% of college graduates answered that diversity was helpful because it provides economic and social benefits to most Americans. A third question posed to both groups was, what impact do immigrants have on the U.S.? 47% of the working white class said they were a burden because they were taking, quote, our, unquote, jobs, while 67% of white college graduates stated that immigrants strengthen our country because of their hard work and their talents. I interviewed a member of the Hispanic community, Diana Bowe. She's 61 years old, was born in Argentina, and she speaks 4 languages. She mentioned that being able to speak English and Spanish is beneficial to her in that she's able to travel confidently and can easily watch movies in both languages. The cons of bilingualism that she mentioned are that she sometimes gets confused when switching gears, trying to speak in one language followed by another one, and sometimes she can't find the right word she wants to use in another language that she knows perfectly well in the first one. When asked for her opinion on Hispanic employment reality and challenges, she stated that if you're legal, speak English fluently, and have an education, you might get a good job, but that if you're undocumented or don't have a good education, the best you're going to get is a low-paying job. She also mentioned that she feels personally discriminated against when she is speaking in Spanish, that she notices people's looks and knows that they suspect that she is undocumented and evading taxes and abusing welfare, and that she is not an equal. Her testimony is proof that we have a long ways to go in terms of embracing diversity and recognizing universal equality. What's ironic is 1 in 4 Americans is now an immigrant, and yet it's a word laced with so much negativity. Why? And how can you help? The short answer: become and be an advocate.